Hello, my name is Tracy Allen, and I want to welcome you to Cooking with Some Friends. Gabby's here, and Gabby was one of my cheerleaders and students, and now she's grown and has a baby of her own.
Still won't leave you alone?
No, you're fine. So anyway, we are going to start a sourdough starter, and this one's a really basic one for beginners. It's super easy. What you have to remember is a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio, which is really simple. Yeah, 1-to-1-to-1. Math and cooking. So with this starter, she's going to start in her jar. She's going to start with 100 grams of wheat flour. Then she'll add to that 100 grams of warm water and stir that up. Then on day 2, you'll just stir it up, not add anything. Okay. On day 3, you're going to get rid of 100 grams of what's in your jar. Yes. Add 100 grams of flour and 100 grams of warm water. But this time you'll use all-purpose unbleached. Okay. Because wheat flour is so heavy that if you use that, your bread will be heavy and gritty.
That's no good.
No, no good. Okay, 100 grams of wheat flour goes in.
See how much.
And the first few you can go pretty fast because you can see it's going up, but after that, kind of slow down so you don't overdo it. There you go. If you go a little over, don't panic, it's fine. Perfect. Now she's got some warm water there, and she's gonna go ahead and add 100 grams, so this will come up to the 200 gram
That's
measurement.
Phone.
It's okay.
You messed it up.
That's good. Okay. Now stir it up with a fork. And you do want to cover these, but it rests in a warm place, but you don't want to cover it so it's sealed off, or the bacteria won't grow right. There's some flour over here in the corner. I know, it's hard to see it from the top. Now you can do, if you're not going to bake a lot of bread, you can do 60 grams and 60 grams. But it's just 100's easier to remember. Okay, that's all there is for now. So this starter is on day 5. So it started the exact same way as this one did. That could have been good.
That was an exact.
That was an X-Acto knife. It would have pierced my I know. So it started the same way. But the bubbles are there and it's growing. So we're going to discard, because I did 60s, we're going to discard 60 grams of this and then add 60 grams of all-purpose unbleached and 60 grams of water. So we'll show you what the discard looks like, because we're not going to, we'll throw this one away because it's not ripe, but the ones that are ready, Bonnie and Clyde, we're going to use them. So we're going to show you now how to feed your starter. This starter is actually active. It's ready to go. So we'll show you the 8-day process, or what happens in that 8-day process, but this one has been through that. So we have about, the rule of thumb is 1-to-1-to-1.
Yep.
So if we have 50 grams of starter, we want 50 grams of unbleached flour, and we want 50 grams of water. So it's 1-to-1-to-1. So Jake's going to go ahead, now that we know
He was kind of guessing.
Yes, he's going to measure in about 50, and there's a funnel if you want it. 50 grams of all-purpose unbleached flour.
Which is just about how much that weighs.
I'm warm. And then 50 grams of water. And the water, I've read different things. Some it says filtered water, some it says unfiltered water, some it says warm, not hot, warm water, some it says room temperature water. Excuse me. So, which do you prefer?
I typically just did warm-ish tap water.
Okay. So there's the 50 grams of all-purpose flour. That was my, cover my scale just in case I got sloppy.
And if you're off by a gram or two, it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't totally destroy it. So don't, if you
out
want to
if
be,
you're
you want to be as
50.
close as you can, but don't freak out if it's not exact. We got flour all over my mixer, didn't we?
Surprised I'm not covering it.
For making our raisin bread. Okay, so 50 grams of water, and then we're going to use a fork to make sure we stir that up really well. And we will move our rubber band up to what our level is so we know when it's doubled. Because different temperatures will change the growth
Look
time.
at that.
Perfect.
And I have also, I was just reading the other day that they recommend sometimes that you stir the water in first.
Really?
But that was just something I was reading. That could be full of crap. I don't know.
Huh.
I guess it helps hydrate your starter before you pour the flour in.
Okay. So, and when you cover this, you're going to want to cover it loosely. So if you have a lid, and at a certain point you'll name your starter. My original starters are Bonnie and Clyde. I explained to Jake why, but it's not a big deal. Anyway, but name your starter. That way you know where you're at on your starters. I know Bonnie and Clyde, all they have to be is fed every day and discard the extra. But the others, about day 5 or 6, I will name those once I know they've got a good start. And that way I know where I'm at on those as well. Okay, so that one's ready to set aside after we know the level. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna do our yeast starter, the one for beginners, the quicker rise. So we've had this one going, this is actually the 3rd day. So at this point you can actually just transfer, 50 grams into a clean jar and then add 50 grams of your all-purpose flour and 50 grams of water to it. And that's just to keep your starter going. And again, you can use now this to make breads or whatever because it's at that level.
Oh crap, our scale shut off.
So
We're gonna call that like 20. Maybe we'll call it 10.
and this one, again, you cover loosely. You store it in a fairly warm place. It'll get bubbly. You can put your rubber band on the jar to kind of see where your levels are.
This one's stickier than our
Yes,
other
the yeast makes it a lot stringier, sticky. But again, this one only takes 2 to 3 days, where the other one takes 8.
Right.
So,
That doesn't seem like very much.
and again, don't throw your discard away if you have a product that you want to make, like pancakes or
Use it.
cookies or whatever. Use the discard, and at this point, you could make bread out of what's left. Yeah, it's holding on, isn't it?
Much stickier.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. And we're in a hurry today, so I'm gonna set that aside and get it out of our way. And he's gonna do all-purpose on this one. This one's bread. 50 grams. 50 grams. and then cover it loosely, warm place, overnight. And then we'll repeat the process. Okay, so one of the things we want to show you with sourdough starters and sourdough breads is to check to see if your sourdough starter is ready. And one of the things you want to do too is to put a rubber band around your jar, and I've moved my rubber band, at the starting point, and then when it reaches, that way you can see how much it's grown. And you want it to be bubbly, and you're going to take a little bit of cold water and a little bit of your starter, and if it floats, it's ready. So I don't know if you can see that. It's floating in the water. So this sourdough starter is ready to go and to make into bread. Okay, we have shown you some other stuff about sourdough bread, but we're going to take our starter that we've done float tests and all that to make sure it's ready. And this has been fed, and this is actually day 9. So we fed and discarded and done the whole routine. So we're going to mix up some sourdough bread, just plain sourdough bread. And this one is kind of one for beginners. You can get a lot fancier than this, but Jake is going to do the mixing for me. We're going to use some all-purpose flour and unbleached. I don't know why, but everybody recommends just the chemicals and the reaction.
Yeah, and I have a feeling that it doesn't help with your starter any. It
Right.
kills off some of the bacteria that's in there.
Okay. And then we have our starter that we're going to use, about 100 grams of it. And we need 325 grams of water and then 10 grams of salt, which is going to be, again, about a teaspoon and a half of salt, roughly. Okay, so we have our mixing bowl, and we're going to mix this with a wooden spoon or by hand, if you would rather. So go ahead and get that on there so it zeroes out. Or you're not going to zero it out?
You're going to turn it on first.
Oh, I always put it on there first and then zero it out.
I got it on there fast enough.
Okay. So to that, he's going to add 475 grams of all-purpose flour.
Heck with the cup.
Yeah. That's also a nice thing about using a scale.
How much?
475 grams.
I'm sniffy today.
Yeah. Allergies.
Yeah.
And on days that are damp like this, is it worse for you?
You know, I don't really have a early spring. That's, and late fall are the worst. Oh, we're almost there. There it is. Well, that's 76, but a nice poof of flour in the air.
Okay. Your water, you're going to need 325 grams.
Warm water? Or just...
It says water, but I think it helps to have it not hot, but warm.
How much was that?
325
300, wow.
grams.
I'm going to zero this down real quick so I'm not doing that math in my head. 325?
325.
I'm going to spill half of it. Well, a cup's about 200. Your scale's a lot faster than mine. Mine doesn't keep up like that.
Oh. Why don't we set that off and add your teaspoon and a half of salt. This is my favorite coffee cup. It's a Christmas one, and I use it.
Weren't they cheap too?
It was like at TJ Maxx or somewhere for like $2. It was crazy. I bought them and put them in the girls' baskets. Okay, now we're gonna measure our starter, and you want 100 grams of that. So that measuring cup you just had, if you want to zero it out. Oh, never mind. I'll do something else.
So that one's in the
It's right
dishwater. Oh, liquid measuring cup.
Yeah.
I was thinking.
Yeah, because we're going by weight.
Come on, scale.
And this starter has grown and it's ripe and ready to go. So we want 100 grams of starter, which is about a cup, right?
I think that's about right. This is one that I always get way ahead of myself.
Mm-hmm. And we will take that, what's left over then, since this is all ripe and ready to go, we'll go ahead and feed it so we can use it again tomorrow.
100 grams is more like a half cup.
Really?
That's why we go by weight.
That's right.
Because we would have had it way wrong. Come on now.
And you pour, which makes sense. But I always scoop because then I don't want to wipe down the side of the jar.
It's not my jar.
But I know. But I transfer it to different jars at different times. Okay, so then he's going to put that in and then mix with a wooden spoon or by hand, whichever one he prefers.
I'm going to go with a wooden spoon.
I'm that way too.
I can keep my hand in that.
Once I get to a certain point, I don't mind using my hand. But so we've shown you in a different part of this video how to feed your yeast, feed your starter. And a yeast starter if you decide to use a little bit of yeast. It just makes things go faster.
I would assume you could probably do this with a mixer too, but
Yeah, I don't know if they're afraid it'll overdevelop that gluten at this point, make it not stretchy enough, or
could be.
yeah. So when he gets this all mixed up, we're going to go ahead and cover it with plastic wrap, and then we're going to let this proof or rise or set or however you want to say it for about 30 minutes. And again, we're going to probably throw ours in the proofer if there's room, and that way it just keeps it at a
go in with my
constant.
hands.
Yes, just to get the last of that done.
It's hard to mix. Get off of me.
And this is for family use, so you don't have to have gloves on.
That's all I ever do is
Is family use?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna find it's gonna be a little sticky.
It'll be pretty sticky.
Yeah.
I have found whenever they're that sticky and then after they rise, they're not nearly as
I know.
sticky.
With sourdough, that's the way it is. If you're using regular bread dough, that's not the way it is.
No.
Okay, so we'll cover with plastic wrap and get it in the proofer.
All right, our beginner sourdough loaf has been rising for 30 minutes. So now we need to stretch and fold this 4 ways, and then we're gonna cover it back up and let it rise for another 30 minutes, then we're gonna stretch and fold it again. So, since the dough is fairly sticky, I like to keep this in the bowl if you can. And I'm not even really sure what this process does, but it's what the recipe calls for, so that's what I'm doing. So you're gonna stretch it, fold it over in all 4 directions. Get your hands a little messy, so the dough will still be pretty sticky. I like to try to scrape as much of that up off the bottom of the bowl that I can. As I do that, I notice that my dough is getting tighter and harder to stretch. It'll come out basically as one huge piece, but okay, so we're gonna cover that and let it rest for 30 more minutes. Okay, we're back with our beginner sourdough bread that we've stretched and folded once. We're gonna do that a second time. We're gonna let it rest another 30 minutes, and then we're gonna stretch and fold it one more time after that 30 minutes and let it rise for 6 to 12 hours. So we're gonna go ahead and stretch and fold this again. Our dough is still pretty sticky, but it has gotten less sticky after that second rise. So we're gonna stretch it, making sure we get all the dough off the bottom of the bowl. Fold it over. We are going to cover that and let it rest for another 30 minutes.
Jake's on the third time folding the sourdough bread dough. He wanted to say something about me going to rehab.
Yeah.
It wasn't rehab, it was therapy for my knee.
It's rehab. Rehab.
So anyway, yeah, so we're gonna do one last time of folding it. And then it,
Yeah, it's far less sticky now than the first time around.
so then what, after,
Then we're going to cover it and let it rise for 8 to 12 hours. Which ours is going to be a little bit modified because we have to cover 24 hours, but
Right.
I'm going to try to get as much of it off the bottom as I can.
and really you fold it over and over just to make it a little more elastic, which will make it a little lighter.
Yeah. Incorporate some air into
Yeah.
the dough, which I'm sure there's probably a stretch and fold before you actually form it into your dough ball.
Yeah, you do. Okay. So we'll come back when we're ready to make it into the bread and bake it. So our dough has been resting. Now we're going to take it on a lightly floured surface and fold it in half. And then we want to fold this side in and this side in. Rotate it. Do the same the other direction. And then we are going to put it in a parchment bowl and put this in the refrigerator until morning, and then we'll take it out and let it warm for a few hours, and then we'll bake it. Our sourdough, I had to think not to do it, has been in the fridge overnight, and then we took it out about 4 hours ago. And so now it's ready to score, and then we're gonna lift the parchment into our heated Dutch oven, and then we're gonna bake this for 20 minutes at the 500. Then we'll drop the temperature because if not, it'll burn.
Okay.
So, Gabby's gonna score it.
Do you want me to squirt it while it's in here?
Yeah,
Or do you
go
want
ahead.
to take it out?
No, while it's in there.
You don't have to fold that or anything.
Doesn't think so.
I believe you. I'm just double checking.
Oh gosh, this is like not.
And really, you score it just to release some air while it's baking, kind of like you do when you make a pie crust, so it doesn't get soggy inside.
Well, it'll burst too
Yeah.
if you
Yeah,
the outer
cracks
edge,
open.
Yeah. It'll be.
So Jake and I are here this morning, and we're going to show you some of the sourdough process because it takes a lot of time, and it's something that Jake's done before. I'm a novice at it. Gabby, who will be in some of these videos, Jake is basically teaching both of us. Okay, so we have our starter made, which we will show you. We've shown you, or we'll show you how to make the starter. But we're going to take that starter that we made, and when it's ready, we're going to show you how to take that and make it into some sourdough cinnamon raisin bread. So we're going to start the process. You're going to need a mixer with a paddle on it. You're going to need your starter. We have a half a cup of raisins that's soaking in a tablespoon of vanilla. We have 6 tablespoons of butter that's soft. We're going to need some sugar, some water, of course our starter, and then, did I say the bread flour? I don't remember. Some bread flour and salt, and that's pretty water.
Yeah.
Those are pretty much the things you're going to need. But this bread has to proof or rise for 30 minutes before we go to the next step. It has to rise a lot longer than that, but 30 minutes to start with. And you can do that covered in a warm place like we've done our starters, or you can use a proofing box, which you can see back on the counter. So it will keep it at a more constant temperature. But you can do it as long as you keep it out of a drafty place. You don't have to have a proofing box. So let's get started with our dough. So in the mixer, Jacob is going to put our flour, which we need 4 cups of bread flour, and there's a 1 cup measuring cup in there. And we're going to mix these first 4 ingredients with our paddle attachment to our mixer, and we want to mix it until it's just kind of a crumbly dough. So, and we have found this recipe has you measure with measuring increments, not weight. But when you do your starter, I've tried it with measuring increments and it was a total flop. So we have our scale out because really on most of our recipes, and especially for your starter, you're going to want a good kitchen scale.
It's far more precise.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot more exact and you're going to get a better starter out of it. And I've shown you the float test so we know our sourdough starter is ready. And if you bake often and bake bread often and want to do sourdoughs often, then you can keep these out and feed them every day. You can keep them out on your counter or wherever, proof box, whatever. Your stomach's growling.
It
Are
is
you
growling.
hungry?
I'm hungry.
Okay, he's going to also put our 6 tablespoons of soft butter in there. You can use a spatula if you need to.
Get a little stuck. Your stomach's growling.
Was that me?
too.
my coffee makes my stomach growl for some reason. we're speaking in, is that speaking in tongues?
Yeah.
You need your sugar, which we need 2 tablespoons of sugar.
Oh, you got.
I know, I've got my little pinch dash. I use it in my coffee every
I
morning.
didn't know those are real measurements.
Yes. So it's 2 tablespoons, and then his 9 grams of salt, which we have, actually, it's going to be about a teaspoon and a half. And then we'll mix these, yes. And that little spoon is about a half a teaspoon. So you need to take those. My math skills are wonderful this morning. So we're going to mix that up until it's that crumbly texture. So Jake has his half cup of starter, and I don't know if you can see, that's really bubbly. Yes. So it's really growing it's very active. So he's going to put that in along with his warm water, and he has 1 cup of warm water. You can drop it if you want to, so it's easier to get to.
I'll just make a mess out of your mixer.
And this is the starter that we have left over that we're going to show you how to feed this, so you can have a continuous starter. Continuous starter. Now, if you're one of those people that only bakes every so often and like once a week or whatever, you can always cover and store your starter in the refrigerator. Mm-hmm. And that way you don't have to feed it but 1 time a week instead of every day. But if you're an everyday baker, you're going to want to keep it out at room temperature or at a warm temperature. Did you slop?
I did, just a little bit.
Okay.
I know, I got it on my hands.
And when you smell your starter, it should have kind of a yeasty smell.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be a skunky or a...
No.
They talk about a, like...
They say
dirty
sock.
Yeah, like a dirty sock smell. If you do, or if there's mold, you're going to want to change and do a different starter. Okay, go ahead. So we've added our starter and our water in there. We're going to mix that up, and then we're going to start... The rising process. So once this is mixed together, we're going to go ahead and cover this and put it in our proofing box for about a half an hour at about 70 to 75 degrees, or on the counter covered for about the same length of time as long as it's in a warm area.
I imagine this is going to be pretty shaggy by the time it's done mixing. It'll be really per
Yeah,
se.
yeah. But as that starter grows, it also releases some of that liquid.
Right.
So again, you're gonna have a little bit of a shaggy dough, but sourdough bread is also a coarse bread.
Yeah.
It's not like when I bake dinner rolls and stuff where you want a fluffier roll. Okay, so we're gonna get this covered in a different bowl because we're gonna need our mixer. Okay, so if you can see the dough, it holds together well. We're gonna drop this in our bowl and cover it with a damp cloth, which is behind you. And we're gonna put it in our proofing box.
All right, so our dough for our cinnamon raisin bread, or our raisin bread, has been rising for 30 minutes. So we've got that out of the proofing box. And we are going to transfer that over into our mixing bowl. Maybe, it's kind of stuck to the bottom. Good gracious, stuff flying around everywhere. And then we're gonna take our raisins that have been soaking in vanilla and we're gonna pour those out onto a paper towel and kind of dry them off a little bit here.
I don't know where it is.
Either on the gossip bench or on the counter.
We're gonna throw that in our mixing bowl as well. Clean up my mess I've made here. And we're gonna put our dough hook on. And we're gonna mix that for 6 to 8 minutes with the dough hook. So that's gonna mix for 6 to 8 minutes. And we're gonna transfer it back into our bowl and cover it and proof it for 8 to 12 hours. So we've had our cinnamon, I keep saying cinnamon, it's just raisin bread. We've had our raisin bread dough going with the dough hook for about 6 to 8 minutes. And now it's time to transfer it back to our bowl so that we can cover it and let it rise for 8 to 12 hours. Take this out of here. And your dough should not be sticky anymore. It should be fairly not sticky. Okay, so we're gonna put that back in our other bowl. We're gonna cover it with plastic wrap and let it rise for 8 to 12 hours. At room temperature.
Okay, so we are doing our cinnamon raisin sourdough, and we walked you through the other process. It's been rising, proofing, whatever you want to call it, and now it's ready to roll out. So Jake and Gabby are going to take care of this. They're going to roll this out, score it, and then they'll put a mixture of a 1/3 cup of sugar, a tablespoon of cinnamon, and a tablespoon of flour over that. Roll it, get it in here, and then we're going to let it proof another hour. So go for it.
Okay.
You might want to get a spoon and mix that, Gabby.
How big do you want to roll this out?
Roll
It's just like 9 by 2.
6 by 20.
Oh,
Was that what it was?
I think. I thought you said
Yeah,
9,
6
but
by
6 by 20.
You care which flour?
I don't care.
Oh, I'm gonna get this all over me every time.
I know, I can't even buy it from the store without getting it all.
I know, I'm that way too. Or carry it up from
Just a tad bit
downstairs
less.
and.
This is far less sticky than it was yesterday. It wasn't real sticky yesterday, but oh, we lost a raisin.
We'll show you what it looks like rolled out. Okay, so now we're gonna roll. We put the cinnamon sugar on and left an inch around except towards the bottom. That was 2 inches. So we're gonna roll from the small end towards Jake.
Trying not to lose any sugar out the end.
And when he gets to the end, he'll pinch that end over the top. and put it in a buttered loaf pan, seam side down. And just scoot it in there. Okay. And now we're going to cover this and let it proof or rise for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. It just depends on how warm your kitchen is. Okay, Gabby has our raisin cinnamon bread, and it's risen some, and now it's ready to go in the oven at 375 for about 40 minutes. And just check, keep an eye on it after about 35 and make sure that it's getting done. Thanks for joining us for this session of Cooking with Some Friends. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And find us on Facebook at Cooking with Some Friends.